have the Equal Justice Project. We have Ariana and Ella. Ariana, sorry. Thank you. And just, you have 5 minutes to present. Thank you.
Kia ora, my name is Ella Rose.
Kia ora, I'm Shireen.
And we are from the Equal Justice Project, which is a non-partisan pro bono charity that applies law students' learning and legal training to promote social equity, inclusivity, and access to justice in our local and wider community. Since 2019, we've been working with the Waitemata Low Carbon Network to undertake climate change advocacy in the Auckland region. This involves keeping up to date with the actions of Auckland Council and the various CCOs and making frequent submissions.
Firstly, I would like to stress the importance and urgency of this issue. As someone who cares deeply about the future health and well-being of the planet and all those who call it home, it is frustrating to see our leaders fail to take sufficient action to protect our future. As such, we commend the Council for their initiative in recognising the seriousness of climate change by declaring a climate emergency last year and by adopting this climate plan. The first few pages of the plan do a good job of conveying the seriousness of the issue and acknowledging the speed and urgency with which action is required.
Secondly, we commend the Council for including rangatahi and kaupapa Māori perspectives into the climate plan. We recognise the importance of building climate resilience from a community level and support the adoption of an inclusive approach to mitigating climate change. This enables the Council to instill intergenerational resilience to climate change, which is crucial as we think about our future.
We are concerned, however, that the actions and targets do not reflect the urgency of this crisis. The targets on page 39 of the plan outline some very important areas of action, but we suggest that they need to be more specific. For example, phrases such as a very high standard of energy efficiency and reduction of greenhouse gas emission sources on land are vague and are wanting for further definition. For a meaningful and speedy reduction in emissions, we need specific and strict targets that have clear pathways. Some of the targets also have no further information as to how they are achieved. For example, there is a target to reduce methane emissions from agricultural stock, but there is no action in the plan that sets out how this will be achieved. The same issue of vagueness can be identified amongst many of the targets under various key areas. The urgency and seriousness of climate change demands clear and specific targets. Finally on this, although the plan is for all of Auckland, we strongly recommend that the Council provide leadership by setting targets for itself and its CCOs. Without meaningful interim targets, we will have no way of knowing if this plan can achieve the Council's commitment to a plan consistent with a 1.5 degree rise or an interim target for halving Auckland's emissions by 2030.
We also encourage the Council to be open and transparent with climate change progress, as it is an issue that concerns all Aucklanders. The plan outlines various aspirational targets, but there is a lack of indication of how these targets will be tracked and measured. To strengthen the climate plan, the Council could highlight the measurement tools used and how progress is tracked against these goals. This would enable the community to hold the Council accountable to the outlined targets whilst improving the transparency of Auckland's climate mitigation strategy.
Overall, the Equal Justice Project supports the Auckland Climate Plan, as it is certainly a step in the right direction. We urge the Council to treat climate change with the seriousness and urgency it demands. With every passing day, the global crisis we are facing worsens exponentially, and the longer we delay meaningful action, the bleaker the future of our planet and its people grows. The Council has acknowledged this fact by declaring a climate emergency, and it is time that our actions reflect the seriousness of our words. There is no time left to waste.
Finally, we ask the Council to add to its resolutions today that Te Tariki Awhawhiri Auckland's climate plan be amended to include interim targets consistent with Council's commitment to a plan consistent with a 1.5 degree rise, or an interim target of halving Auckland's emissions by 2030. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you all, and thank you too, Grant. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presentation. It's much appreciated. My question is, some of the things that are in this plan we can directly impact, so public transport, how our buildings are put together with what sort of scenarios, removing gas, heating systems and so forth, and for water and for buildings. Others, we have very limited or no actual impact other than advocacy. Would you suggest that we target straight into the things we have direct ability to change and less impact upon the ones that we are only partially or minority available to change?
I think because of the urgency of the situation, it's really important to focus on what we can directly change from the council perspective. So things like public transport are really important because it is the largest section of Auckland's emissions. So I think really focusing energy on direct and fast change is important, but also not to neglect the other areas because it needs an integrated approach.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I used to be the chair of your education arm back when I was in law school. So it's really, really great to hear from you guys again. Thank you for your thoughtful and considered submission. I particularly liked your points around accountability and more precise statements around that. And just to point out that climate change will result in some really fascinating legal cases and legal discussion in the future, I'm sure. For councillors that are not familiar with your organisation, could you maybe just please tell us a bit more about what EJP does?
So the Equal Justice Project is a branch of law school that helps integrate sort of active learning, so how we can transfer our legal skills, everything that we've learned into the real world, and one of the ways we do that is by civic participation. So that's why we're here today, and that's why we work with a lot of council-controlled organisations to hold them accountable to their climate targets, as well as ensuring that law students have that real-world experience so that they know what they are getting themselves into, essentially. Yeah.
Well done, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Bartley.
Thank you for your presentation today. We struggle to hold the CCOs to account, so how are you guys going with holding them to account to the climate plan?
Thank you for your question. That is an interesting question. We do have specific people assigned to each CCO who attend their statement of intent meetings. We also present at those CCO meetings. So we have one today with, was it AT? Yeah. AT is happening today. I know Panuku is happening next week. So we try to engage, provide like a rangatahi perspective on these issues and to make sure that our law students have that accessibility, have that opportunity to actually present and interact with the CCOs.
I'll just add, it does vary per each CCO, the sort of engagement level we get. But we have had some good responses from them saying that they've acknowledged our input and that they'll take it into account moving forward.
I was trying not to speak today, but I can't help myself. What we'd also like to do is report back to a committee, and I'm not sure this is the right one, it might be the Finance Committee, on what we've done and how we think your CCOs are responding in terms of climate change. We'd have to say at this point a number have started down that track and have produced draft or climate strategies, climate action strategies. So what you asked them to do, they are actually starting to do. It's that accountability. So the idea is we're going to kind of try some feedback loops where we're engaging with them. If we don't get the sort of answers we really think we want, we'll come back to you and say you need to start getting a bit tougher on them as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think if you could potentially contact the Deputy Mayor, he chairs the CCO review, that might be the place where you could come and present on your discussions or findings with your work in the CCO. So that would be, I think, probably helpful, interesting. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, my question was exactly that. If you're going to speak to all the CCOs, I would be very interested in that response. So to that end, how would you be willing to feed it back? So great minds, and I look forward to seeing your feedback. Very interested. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you all. I will move your public input and... Oh, yeah, sorry. Can we add... I've got you written down, so we can add Grant to that. Yeah. It's perfect. Second that, Deputy Chair. All those in favour? Those against? Perfect. Thank you very much.